AITA for ruining my wife's innocent girl's trip with one message. 23 years of marriage, a life built together. And it all came crashing down because of one message. I can't wait for our Miami trip. She thought she was heading to a tropical paradise. Little did she know, the real hell would begin at the airport. 3 weeks ago, I discovered my wife was cheating on me. Not because I was looking, nor because I had hired a private investigator. It was pure coincidence. Her phone vibrated on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I glanced at it instinctively, and there it was, a message from someone named Trevor. Can't wait for our trip to Miami. Just you, me, and the beach. I just stood there, coffee mug in hand, trying to process what I had just read. 23 years of marriage. And that's how I found out. Not through a huge fight, not through suspicious behavior, but because of a silly mistake and a forgotten phone. But there's something no one tells you about discovering your wife's infidelity. You have choices. You can explode, scream, demand answers, or you can think. And I chose to think. I didn't say anything that morning or that night. Instead, I started to watch, to pay attention, to learn. And what I learned made my stomach turn. This wasn't a recent slip-up, not a moment of weakness. It was an affair, a relationship, and it had been going on for months. Trevor Hayes, from her yoga studio. Divorced, no kids, drives a leased BMW that probably costs more than my monthly salary, everything I apparently wasn't. The messages I found in the following days painted a picture I would give anything to forget. Weekend appointments that weren't appointments. Nights with Riley that clearly involved no Riley. A double life I had never once suspected. But instead of confronting her, I did something different. I planned. I called my friend Blake, who works at a law firm downtown. Not for legal advice, not yet. I just wanted to understand my options. I photographed important documents. I started watching our finances in a way I never had before, and I waited. 3 weeks of waiting. 3 weeks of watching her lie to my face every day. 3 weeks of her coming home smelling like another man's cologne, claiming it was from her book club colleague. 3 weeks preparing for this moment, because I already knew about the Miami trip. I heard her planning it all on the phone. Heard her talking to Trevor about how she'd convince me it was just a weekend with friends. How she'd make me believe Riley and Taylor were going too, and how easy it would be to fool me. The irony of it all was not lost on me. She thought I was an idiot, that I was the kind of husband who just smiles and nods while she disappears for a romantic weekend with another man. And for 3 weeks, I let her believe exactly that. The morning of the trip, she kissed me as if nothing was wrong. Said she would miss me. Said the girls would pick her up on the way to the airport. I even helped her put her suitcase in the trunk of the Uber, knowing full well that Trevor was probably already waiting for her at O'Hare, ready to board the same flight. Have fun with the girls, I said, squeezing her hand. You deserve this break. She smiled. That same smile I now knew was a complete lie. I'll text you when I land, she replied. And she did, right on schedule as promised, probably while Trevor was grabbing their bags in Miami. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. Don't stress. It's just an innocent girl's trip. I stared at that message for a long time. The word innocent almost made me laugh. After 3 weeks of planning, of watching her lie without flinching, of preparing every detail for this moment, she still had the audacity to use the word innocent. That's when I typed my reply. Short, simple, and capable of destroying whatever fantasy she had built in her head. I hope you and Trevor enjoy the island. I hit send, left the phone on my desk at work, and waited. I knew exactly what was happening over 1,000 miles away. I could picture her face as she read those words, the confusion, the panic, and the sudden realization that her entire charade had crumbled. 30 seconds later, my phone started ringing. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. When I left work an hour later, I had 17 missed calls and 43 messages, each one more desperate than the last. Please call me. It's not what you think. I can explain everything. Please don't do this. I'm coming back right now. But one of them caught my eye, sent 20 minutes after my reply. Ticket bought. Arrive at O'Hare at 11:47 p.m. Please don't leave me. That's when I knew. I had her exactly where I wanted her. Not in a resort room with Trevor, but in a state of panic, desperate, finally understanding that she had spent weeks playing someone who was always 10 steps ahead. 23 years of marriage, and it took a single text message to completely turn the tables. She thought she was escaping for a secret romantic weekend, but in reality, she had walked right into the trap I had been setting for 3 weeks. My phone vibrated again. Another call from her. I looked at the screen, and, for the first time in weeks, I genuinely smiled. Then, I declined the call and went back to my work. After all, I still had a lot to do before her flight landed that night. The beauty of having 3 weeks to prepare is that you can plan every detail, think through every possible scenario. While she was frantically trying to call me from Miami, I was executing the plan I had been perfecting since the day I found out. My first stop after work was Harper & Associates, downtown. Blake had set up a meeting for me with one of their divorce attorneys, a sharp woman named Attorney Marianne Collins, who didn't waste time on pleasantries. "How long have you known?" she asked, looking over the photos of documents I had been collecting for the past few weeks. 3, I replied. "I've been documenting everything." She gave an approving nod. "Smart. Most men come in here emotionally wrecked and completely unprepared." She flipped through the papers, bank statements, mortgage information, retirement accounts. She looked up. "Good work." As we talked, my phone never stopped vibrating. The calls had slowed, but the texts were coming in waves. I glanced at a few during the meeting. I never wanted this to happen. "Trevor means nothing to me. Please let me explain." Attorney Collins noticed the constant glow from the screen. "The other party trying to make contact?" she asked. "She's discovering that actions have consequences," I replied, turning the phone face down. She offered a slight smile. "Excellent. Don't respond yet. Let the panic simmer for a while. It's amazing how people start making mistakes when they're desperate." By the time I left her office, it was after 8 p.m. My phone showed 67 missed calls and over 100 texts. The latest ones were growing increasingly frantic. "I'm on the plane now. We need to talk in person. I know you're mad, but please don't ignore me." Another message, sent about an hour earlier, caught my attention. "Trevor doesn't understand why I'm leaving. I told him it was a family emergency. Please don't tell his wife anything. Please." That last part made me pause. Trevor's wife. In all my research on this guy, I had missed that detail. He was married, too. So it wasn't just my wife who was cheating. 2 marriages were being destroyed. I drove home slowly, taking the long way. When I walked inside, the house felt different, quieter, but in a light way, as if a weight had been lifted. I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my old armchair, the one she always hated. "That old chair ruins the whole room," she used to say. Tonight, it felt perfect. The phone rang again. This time, I answered. "Thank God," she breathed, before I could even say a word. "I've been trying to reach you for hours. My flight lands in 3 hours, and we need to." "How's Trevor?" I interrupted calmly. "How's he handling the sudden departure?" Silence. Then, a much smaller voice, almost childlike. "What do you want me to say? I want you to stop insulting my intelligence. You've been lying to me for months. You packed for a romantic trip with another man. You kissed me this morning knowing exactly where you were going and who you were going with. So please, spare me the act. It wasn't supposed to happen this way." "Which part?" I cut in. "The affair itself, or you getting caught?" A long silence. "Both," she replied. "Finally, at least that's honest." "Good," I continued. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get back tonight. We are going to have one conversation. After that, you're going to pack what you need and find somewhere else to stay while we sort out the legal details." "Legal details? Are you talking about lawyers?" "I spoke with an attorney 3 hours ago, filed the paperwork 2 hours ago, and froze our joint accounts an hour ago. You spent months planning your trip with Trevor. I spent 3 weeks planning this conversation." The silence on the other end of the line was so long I thought she'd hung up. Then I heard her voice, trembling. "You knew? You knew before I left. I've known since the morning you got that text from Trevor about the Miami trip. Since then, I've known about every lie, every fake book club meeting, every girl's night, every time you came home smelling of his cologne and told me you missed me." "How long have you been planning this?" she asked, almost a whisper. "Since the moment I realized my wife was capable of looking me in the eye every single day while living a completely different life behind my back. I never wanted to hurt you." The line almost made me laugh. "You've been hurting me for months. The only difference is that now you have to deal with the consequences. Can we please just talk when I get there, in person?" she pleaded. "We'll talk. But understand something. This isn't a negotiation. It's not couples therapy. This is me telling you exactly how things are going to be from now on. You lost your right to an opinion when you got on that plane to Miami with another man. What about Trevor's wife? She asked suddenly. Are you going to tell her? That caught my attention. Even in her panic, she was still trying to protect her lover. That depends entirely on how our conversation goes tonight. Please, don't destroy his marriage too. His marriage, I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. You're worried about destroying his marriage after you destroyed ours? It's not the same. You're right. It's not. His wife deserves to know the truth, just like I did. The only difference is, she'll find out tonight instead of stumbling upon it by accident 3 weeks from now. You can't do that. I can. You know what the great thing is about being the one who didn't cheat? I get to decide how much of the truth comes out, and when. The call ended abruptly. She had hung up on me. 5 minutes later, a text, landing in 2 hours. Please don't do anything stupid before I get there. I poured myself another drink and opened my laptop. It was time to find Trevor's wife on social media. After all, someone had to let her know that her husband's business trip to Miami had been cut short by unforeseen circumstances. 2 could play the messaging game, and I'd had 3 whole weeks to perfect my strategy. Finding Trevor's wife took exactly 15 minutes. Social media makes things far too easy these days. Dana Walsh, married to Trevor for 8 years, 2 kids, part-time dental hygienist. Her most recent post, from yesterday, was a smiling photo with the caption, "Have a great trip, honey. Hope your important conference in Florida is a success." I stared at that caption for a long time. Important conference. The lies never stopped, did they? I was still deciding how to handle the Dana situation when I heard the sound of an Uber pulling into the driveway. 11:52 p.m., 5 minutes behind schedule. Through the window, I saw her get out of the car slowly, like someone walking to their own execution. No sign of Trevor, of course. He was probably still in Miami, trying to figure out what kind of family emergency would make someone abandon a romantic weekend getaway on a dime. She used her key to get in, which surprised me a little. I had sort of expected her to knock, maybe test the waters first, but no. She walked right in, heading to the living room where I was sitting in the same old armchair she hated so much. She looked awful. Hair a mess from the flight, makeup smudged, clothes wrinkled. But more than anything, she looked defeated. This was not the confident woman who had kissed me 12 hours earlier. This was someone who had spent the last 8 hours realizing her world was about to fall apart. "We need to talk," she said, dropping her small carry-on bag by the door. "No," I replied calmly. "You need to listen." She sat on the couch across from me, the same couch where we had watched TV together for years, where she had snuggled up to me feigning affection while secretly planning her romantic escape with another man. "I know you're angry," she began. I held up a hand, cutting her off. "Before you say another word, understand this. I know everything. I know about the yoga studio. I know about the weekends with Riley that never happened. I know about the extra nights at work. I know about the hotel receipts you thought you hid so well. So please, don't insult both our intelligence by pretending this was a recent slip-up or a moment of weakness." Her shoulders slumped. "How long have you known?" 3 weeks. Since the day Trevor texted you about Miami. You left your phone on the kitchen counter. And you didn't say anything for 3 weeks? I spent that time gathering evidence, understanding the scope of the lie, and protecting myself legally and financially. Everything you should have thought about before you destroyed our marriage. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she mumbled. "And how was it supposed to be?" I countered. "Were you planning on telling me eventually, or was the plan to just keep living 2 lives indefinitely?" She was silent for a long moment. "I don't know. At least that's honest," I replied. "But here's what I do know. You made choices for months. Every time you lied to me. Every time you kissed me before you left to see him. Every time you came home pretending to be a faithful wife. Those were all choices. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. Every single day. The only difference is that now you have to face the consequences." She started to cry. It wasn't the hysterical, movie-style crying. It was silent tears sliding down her face, the quiet, muffled sound of guilt. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Now? Now you get to experience what it's like to lose control. I've already filed for divorce. Our joint accounts are frozen pending judicial review. I have all the documentation I need. And tomorrow morning, you're going to find somewhere else to stay while we sort out the details. You can't just kick me out of my house, she cried, her voice cracking. I can. This house is in my name only, remember? We bought it before the wedding, and you said yourself you didn't want the responsibility of co-ownership. Lucky for me. Unlucky for you. Her expression shifted, a mix of fear and realization. She finally understood just how vulnerable she was. What about Trevor's wife? She whispered. Are you going to tell her? I haven't decided yet. Part of me thinks she deserves to know. Another part of me thinks it's not my job to clean up your mess. Please, don't destroy his marriage. His marriage was destroyed the moment he decided to take my wife to Miami. I'd just be delivering the news. You don't understand, she insisted. He has kids, a family. So did I? Until my wife decided another family was more interesting. She flinched as if I had slapped her. Well, can I ask you something? I continued. What was the plan? Were you going to ask me for a divorce? Or were you planning on continuing with both lives until you got caught? I wasn't thinking that far ahead, she stammered. That's obvious. You want to know the funniest part about all this? You actually thought you were smart enough to hide something like this? You thought I was too dumb or too trusting to notice. Even this morning, you looked me in the eye and told me you'd miss me while you were literally walking out the door to meet another man. It wasn't like that, she tried to justify. It was exactly like that. I cut her off. The silence that followed was so heavy you could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Do you want to know what really convinced me to file for divorce? I asked, still standing. It wasn't finding out about Trevor. It was watching you lie to me so easily for 3 weeks, even after I already knew everything. The way you deceived me was almost impressive. She was crying harder now, her voice thick. Is there any chance we can fix this? Go to couples therapy? Maybe. Fix what exactly? I interrupted. The months of lies, the affair, or the fact that just 8 hours ago you were in another state with another man. Or maybe, I continued, we can fix the fact that, just a moment ago, you asked me not to tell his wife, because you're still trying to protect him. I'm not protecting Trevor, she tried to explain. I'm just trying to minimize the damage. Minimize the damage for who? For him, I asked, laughing bitterly. Because you certainly weren't worried about minimizing the damage to me while you were planning your romantic getaway to Miami. That's not fair, she whispered. Fair, I repeated, rising from the armchair. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been having this conversation before you decided to cheat. Fair would have been telling me you were unhappy instead of finding another man. Fair would have been asking for a divorce if you wanted out, not making me live a lie for months. I know I made mistakes, she cried. Mistakes? I shook my head. Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. Running a red light is a mistake. What you did was a series of conscious choices over months to destroy everything we built together. She looked up from the couch, mascara streaking down her cheeks. So that's it. 23 years, and it's over. No, I replied coldly. 23 years, and you decided it was over. I'm just accepting your decision and moving on. I never said I wanted a divorce. You didn't have to say it. You showed it with every lie, every secret meeting, every time you chose him over our marriage. Actions speak louder than words. What if I end it with Trevor? She tried desperately. What if I block him forever, and we start over from scratch? I almost laughed. Start over? You think there's any starting over after this? You think I can ever trust you again? You think I can ever look at you the same way? Couples get through affairs all the time, she mumbled. Couples get through confessions, not discoveries. Those people feel remorse. They own up to it. They ask for forgiveness. You lived a double life for months, planned romantic trips, and only got caught because you left your phone on the counter, not because you had a crisis of conscience. She fell silent. Finally, she was beginning to understand the magnitude of what she had done. Go to sleep, I said. Tomorrow, you pack your things and find a place to stay. The rest will be handled between lawyers. And as for Trevor's wife? I looked at her one last time. Even now, still worried about Trevor, still trying to protect him. I'll let you know tomorrow. I finished and walked upstairs, leaving her alone on the couch she had helped pick out in a time when we still believed in forever. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of suitcases being dragged around downstairs. Good. She was finally getting it that this wasn't a negotiation. While she moved through the house collecting her things, I made coffee, and opened my laptop. It was time to make a few calls. The first was to Dana Walsh. I had found the number for the dental clinic where she worked. She answered on the second ring, probably thinking it was a patient canceling an appointment. Dana, this is going to sound strange, but I need to tell you something about your husband, Trevor. There was a pause. Who is this? My name doesn't matter. What matters is that Trevor wasn't at a conference in Miami yesterday. He was there with my wife. They've been having an affair for months. Silence. Then, a hesitant reply. That's impossible. Trevor's been working late on this project for weeks. He showed me the conference materials. Ma'am, I said calmly, my wife texted me from Miami yesterday claiming it was just an innocent girl's trip. I replied, I hope you and Trevor enjoy the island. She caught the first flight back and landed at 11:47 last night. Your husband is likely still in Miami, trying to figure out why his romantic weekend ended so abruptly. This is crazy. You're lying. Then check, I replied. Check his location on his phone. Look at the credit card statements. Go to the conference website and see if there was actually an event yesterday. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to verify what I'm saying. The line was silent for nearly a minute. Then I heard typing in the background, and then a whisper. Oh my God, there's no conference. The website says the next event isn't until October. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, I said. But you deserve to know. She hung up without another word. The next call was to Qley, my wife's sister. The two had always been close, and Qley had always been a supporter of our marriage. She deserved to hear it from me before the distorted versions started circulating. Qley, it's me. I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. What's wrong? You sound serious. Your sister has been having an affair for months. I found out 3 weeks ago, and she's moving out today. What? That's impossible. She would have told me if she was having problems. She didn't tell you because she wasn't having problems. She was having an affair with a guy named Trevor from her yoga studio. Yesterday, they flew to Miami for a romantic weekend. I caught her. It can't be, Qley said in disbelief. She came home last night. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I replied. I just wanted you to hear it from me before she starts calling everyone with her version of events. Are you absolutely sure about this? I have 3 weeks of proof. Text messages, card statements, hotel reservations. Yes, Qley, I'm sure. I hung up the phone and heard footsteps coming down the stairs. She appeared in the kitchen carrying 2 suitcases, her face drawn, dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept a minute. Where am I supposed to go now? She asked, her voice thick with emotion. That's no longer my problem. You should have thought of that before you rearranged your life around another man. Can I stay at Qley's for a few days until I get settled? You can try, I replied. I just got off the phone with her. The color drained from her face. You told my sister? I told her the truth, just like I told Trevor's wife an hour ago. Her eyes widened. You called Dana? You actually called his wife. She deserved to know, just like I deserve to know. Funny how justice works, isn't it? She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. You're destroying everything. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just revealing what you already destroyed. There's a difference. Trevor is going to lose his job over this, she yelled. His wife is going to take his kids from him. Trevor made his own choices, I replied coldly. Actions have consequences. Something you're both learning today. You don't understand. He's in another state. He can't even defend himself. Defend himself from what? The truth? The documented fact that he was sleeping with another man's wife for months? And what, exactly, would his defense be? She put her head in her hands. This is a nightmare. For you too. Maybe, I replied. But for me, it's justice. My cell phone rang. Unknown number, 305 area code. Miami. I answered. Is this the husband? An angry male voice demanded. Depends who's asking. This is Trevor. What the hell did you tell my wife? I told her the truth. Something it seems you forgot to do when you told her you were going to a conference. You don't understand the situation. I understand it perfectly, I interrupted. You slept with my wife, you planned a romantic trip with her. You lied to your wife about where you were going. Explain to me which part one got wrong. It's complicated. Actually, it's very simple. You're a married man who decided to get involved with a married woman. Now you're both reaping the consequences. You've ruined everything. I didn't ruin a thing. You and my wife destroyed everything months ago. I just stopped pretending it wasn't happening. My wife is talking about taking the kids and calling lawyers. Good for her. She deserves better than a husband who makes up work trips so he can cheat. You don't know what you've just done. I know exactly what I've done. I've given two women the information they needed to make informed decisions about their own marriages. Something their husbands should have done months ago. He hung up. My wife was staring at me from across the table, pale. He sounded desperate. I'm sure he is, I replied. His wife is smart enough to protect herself and her children. Unlike some people, she's not going to spend months pretending nothing is wrong. What about us? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. What about our marriage? What marriage? I shot back. The one where you lived a double life for months, where you lied to my face every day, where you planned romantic trips with another man. That marriage ended the day you decided Trevor was more important than your husband. I never said he was more important. You didn't have to. You showed it with every choice, every lie, every time you came home after being with him and pretended you still loved me. Actions speak louder than words. She picked up her suitcases. I'll call you when I figure out where I'm staying. Don't bother. All communication from now on will be through our lawyers. It doesn't have to be this way. Yes, it does. And you made sure of that when you got on that plane to Miami with another man yesterday. She walked to the door, stopped, and looked back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Are you sorry you got caught, or sorry for what you did? She didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. After she left, I poured another coffee and went back to my laptop. Time to change all the passwords, cancel her cards, and update my emergency contacts at work. My phone buzzed. A text from Blake. Heard you're having an interesting week. Need anything? I replied. Just executed everything we planned. Clean and complete. Good man. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. Having a plan makes all the difference. And it was true. For the first time in weeks, I could actually breathe. The house felt lighter, the air cleaner. The constant weight of tension was gone. The phone rang again. Qley, I can't believe she did this to you. Believe it, I replied. I have 3 weeks of documentation. She called me crying, asking to stay here. I told her I needed some time to process everything. Fair enough, I said. What kind of person does something like that? How can someone live a lie for so long? Someone who thought she was smarter than everyone else. Someone who believed she could live 2 lives forever. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry for me, I answered. I'm going to be fine. Be sorry for her. She threw away 23 years of marriage for someone who will probably lose his job and his family by the end of the day. Trevor did lose his job, Qley said over the phone. His wife called his office this morning. It seems he used company money to fund the trip. Miami wasn't a business trip, but he expensed it as one. Corporate fraud and adultery. He's having a bad day. Like I said, I replied. Actions have consequences. He just never imagined someone would connect the dots. When I hung up, I realized something. For the first time in 3 weeks, I was actually smiling. Not because I took pleasure in someone else's suffering, but because the truth was finally out. No more lies, no more pretending, no more living inside someone else's illusion. The hardest part was over. The rest was just paperwork. 2 days later, she showed up at my office. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant buzzed me on the intercom. Your wife is here. She says it's urgent. For a moment, I considered having security called, but curiosity won. Send her in. She walked in looking even worse than she had on Tuesday night. Deep-set dark circles, wrinkled clothes, hair that hadn't seen a brush in days. This was no longer the put-together woman who had been planning secret trips with her lover a week ago. We need to talk, she said, closing the door. I thought I was clear, I replied. All communication goes through the lawyers now. Please, just 5 minutes. I leaned back in my chair. The clock is ticking. I made a mistake, she started. A terrible mistake. But 23 years has to count for something. It didn't. It counted enough for me to give you 3 weeks to confess after I found out. You chose to keep lying. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. Funny, you didn't seem scared on Tuesday morning. When you kissed me before getting on a plane with Trevor, you seemed excited. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. That's not fair. What's not fair is you standing here in my office asking for forgiveness while Trevor's wife is probably talking to divorce lawyers right now because of what you two did. His marriage was already in trouble. According to who? Trevor himself? The man who lied to his wife about going to a conference while planning a romantic weekend with you? You don't understand how complicated this situation is. No, it's not complicated. You chose him repeatedly over months. Now you're just facing the consequences. What if I told you he meant nothing to me? That it was just a physical thing? I almost laughed. That makes it worse, not better. You destroyed our marriage for someone who meant nothing. That's not what I meant. I know exactly what you meant. You think throwing Trevor under the bus now will erase what you did? But you know what? I don't care if he meant everything or nothing. You still chose to lie to my face every single day for months. People make mistakes. People forgive. Some mistakes can be forgiven. This wasn't one. This was a calculated betrayal that required daily, eye-to-eye, unflinching lies. She sat in the chair across from my desk, uninvited. What would it take to fix this? Nothing. There is nothing you could offer that would make me ever trust you again. I'll quit the yoga studio. I'll block Trevor forever. I'll go to therapy. You'll be doing all of that anyway if you want any chance at happiness in your next relationship, because this one is over. You're being cruel. No, I'm being honest. Something you've forgotten how to do for months. My phone buzzed. A text from Blake. Your wife filed a divorce counterpetition, citing emotional abandonment. Heads up. I showed her the screen. Emotional abandonment? Is that your legal strategy? Her face flushed red. It was my lawyer's idea. Your lawyer is an idiot if he thinks that's going to stick. I have 3 weeks of documented proof showing you had already emotionally abandoned this marriage long before I found out why. I never emotionally abandoned you. Really? Planning romantic trips with another man while lying to your husband. What is that? Emotional availability. Stop throwing that in my face. It happened 3 days ago. It's not ancient history. She shot up from her seat. Fine. You want to play hardball? Trevor's wife dropped the charges. What charges? The corporate fraud. She decided not to press it. Good for him. He's still unemployed and getting divorced, but at least he's not going to prison. And his wife wants to try and rebuild their marriage. That surprised me. Really? She called me yesterday. Said she'd rather fight for her marriage than give up. Interesting. So she's willing to forgive Trevor, but you're here because I won't forgive you. It's not the same situation. You're right. It's not. Trevor confessed everything when he was confronted. You're still trying to manipulate the narrative even now. I'm just trying to save our marriage. No. You're trying to escape the consequences of destroying our marriage. There's a big difference. She was quiet for a moment, then whispered, What if I told you there were others before Trevor? That made me freeze. What did you say? If I told you Trevor wasn't the first, would that change anything? I just stared at her, incredulous. After everything, she still thought she could control the damage. She was still playing a game. Are you threatening me? You'll confess to other affairs if I don't take you back? I'm asking if knowing the whole truth would change anything. The whole truth? I thought Trevor was the whole truth. How many whole truths are there? Does it matter? She shot back. Yes, it does, I replied. Because it shows me exactly who I've been married to for 23 years. She walked to the door and turned around. You're going to regret this. We were good together. We were never we. I was married to someone who doesn't exist. And you were married to someone you clearly never respected enough to be honest with. This isn't over. Actually, it is. And the fact that you think threatening me with more confessions of infidelity is a good strategy tells me everything I need to know about how this marriage really ended. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, processing what had just happened. Others before Trevor. How long had I been living a complete lie? My phone rang. Attorney Collins here. How was the ambush? She admitted there were others before Trevor. Did she give details? No. She used it as blackmail, saying she'd tell me everything if I reconsidered the divorce. Classic manipulation tactic, she replied. Don't fall for it. I'm not. But it makes me wonder how long this was going on. Does it change anything legally? I asked. No, but it changes everything personally. After I hung up, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was relieved. Every conversation with her just confirmed I was making the right choice. She was showing me, with every word, that even when caught, even when facing divorce, she was still capable of manipulating and hiding the truth. Some people don't deserve second chances. Some marriages can't be saved. And some decisions, once made, bring nothing but peace. 6 months later, I was sitting in the same armchair she hated, reading the final divorce decree. Clean, simple, final. She got her personal belongings and half of the savings account. I got the house, the retirement, and my dignity. My phone rang. Blake. So, how does it feel to be officially single? Like I can breathe again. Any regrets? None. Best decision I ever made. And it was true. The last 6 months had been the most peaceful of my adult life. No more wondering why she was working late. No more living with someone who treated lying as a daily routine. Did you hear about Trevor? Blake asked. What about him? His wife took him back, but filed for legal separation 3 weeks later. Apparently, he was still texting other women. Some people never learn, I replied. And your ex? Living with her sister. Qley says she's dating some guy she met at a coffee shop. Apparently, he doesn't know about Trevor or the divorce. I almost felt sorry for the guy. Almost. What about the yoga studio? I asked. It shut down last month. The owner couldn't handle the fallout when word got out that instructors were getting involved with married clients. The place turned into a mess. After I hung up, I went out to get the mail. My neighbor, Mrs. Parker, was watering her garden. How are you doing, dear? She asked. The house is so quiet since she left. Better than I've been in years, honestly. Good for you. We always knew something was off. Off. The way she'd leave at odd hours, come back looking guilty. We didn't want to meddle, but neighbors noticed things. That caught me by surprise. You knew? We suspected. When you see someone putting different bags into different cars twice a week, you start to wonder. I thought about that as I walked back inside. Even the neighbors had noticed her lies. I was the only one who had still been living in denial. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Dana Walsh. I wanted to thank you for telling me the truth. My divorce is final next week. Trevor lost custody of the kids because of the lies and financial fraud. My children and I are moving to Colorado to be near my parents. You saved us from years of living a lie. I texted back, I'm glad you and the kids are okay. You deserved better. So did you. I heard through friends your divorce was finalized. I hope you find happiness. I already have. It seems happiness was just hiding under years of someone else's lies. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called Dean, my old friend, the one she always avoided seeing. Look who's back from the dead, he answered, laughing. I thought you'd fallen off the map. I was thinking about getting dinner and catching up. Finally, Megan told me what happened. We were wondering when you'd resurface. How long did you guys know? I asked. Know what? That my marriage was a sham. Dean was quiet for a few seconds. We didn't know about the cheating, but we knew she made you walk on eggshells all the time. Every time we went out, you seemed nervous, Dean said. Like you were afraid of getting in trouble just for having a little fun. Why didn't you ever say anything to me? I asked. And what were we supposed to say? He replied. Hey, your wife is controlling and seems to hate your friends? You wouldn't have listened. He was right. I wouldn't have. Anyway, Dean continued. We're all glad to have you back. Poker night is Saturday. If you want to stop by, I'll be there. After I hung up, I realized something. The friends I had lost touch with, the hobbies I had given up, and the version of myself I had buried to keep the peace in a broken marriage. It was all still there, waiting for me to remember who I was. That night, I opened a bottle of wine I had been saving for a special occasion. The end of a bad marriage seemed special enough. I raised my glass to the empty living room and said quietly, to consequences, to the truth, and to some people getting exactly what they deserve. The house was silent, but it was a good silence, a peaceful, honest silence. For the first time in years, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. 6 months ago, my wife had sent me a text about an innocent girl's trip. Today, I was a divorced man who learned that sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people face the natural consequences of their own choices. She wanted Trevor, and she got him, for a little while. Then she lost him, her marriage, her house, and the respect of everyone who knew the truth. I just wanted an honest life and discovered that to get it, all I had to do was stop accepting dishonesty. The armchair was comfortable, the wine was excellent. And tomorrow, I would wake up in a house where everyone who lived there told the truth. Some endings are really just new beginnings in disguise. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.